really do get me. For example, in case you're wondering the kind of TV series I have an eclectic taste, but this might give you an insight as to what I'd like to watch. I love Blacklist. I love the Blacklist. Absolutely fascinating indeed. Of course, I loved Game of Thrones. The last season was horrible, but Game of Thrones definitely up there. Vikings was good also. Vikings was really good. So gives you an idea as to what I like. As far as TV is concerned, I also love me a good sitcom. I love comedy. You know, I can watch comedy. I can watch a comedy channel the entire day. Literally, I can do that. I can just sit in front of your TV. As long as it's in a comedy channel, I can watch it for the entire day. So that's it with me and TV. So whilst I do enjoy this on TV, and I'm sure you have what you enjoy on TV, I'm wondering, will the Presidential Tribunal, will that make for compelling television at this time? Will the Presidential Tribunal, would it make for compelling TV? Would it grasp your attention? Can you sit in front of it for the entire day? Or most of the day? Like, I wouldn't mind if I were watching a comedy channel. Well, here's a story from Punch. Atiku PDP applied for live coverage of court proceedings. The PDP and its presidential candidate in a just concluded presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, have filed an application for an order to allow the live coverage of the daily court proceedings on the case they brought against the president-elect Bola Tinubu, which begins today. Now, in the motion by his legal team, led by Chris Uche SEN, he specifically applied for an order directing the court's registry and the parties on modalities for admission of media practitioners and the equipment into the courtroom. Now, his argument is that the case involved citizens and electorate in the 36 states of the Federation who took part in a just concluded presidential polls, while adding that the international community is interested in Nigeria's electoral process. In their motion, they are contending that, quote, with the huge and tremendous technological advances and developments in Nigeria and beyond, including the current trend by this court towards embracing electronic procedures, virtual hearing and electronic filing, a departure from the rules to allow a regulated televising of the proceedings in this matter is in consonance with the maxim that justice must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. Televising court proceedings is not alien to this court and will enhance public confidence, the petitioners noted. So we talk about that in the 4 o'clock hour. Should the presidential petition, should the petitions or the proceedings are the Presidential Elections Tribunal, should it be televised? Should it be televised live? Should there be a live coverage of it? I'd like to get your take on that. And what impact do you think it might have if you say yes? What impact would it have on the proceedings and even the possible outcome as well, if any at all? We'll look at that in the 4 o'clock after the business news. That takes us to 5 o'clock. The news update comes up then. And after the updates at 5 p.m., is Aluta still continuing? Is it? You know, if you know anything about labor unions, you must know that very common and popular expression they like to use, Aluta continua, which is Portuguese for the struggle continues. And once again, labor unions really like to use that expression, but is Aluta still continuing? Is the struggle really continuing? Here's a story also from Punch. Court nullifies Obaseki's suspension of union activities in universities. The National Industrial Court of Nigeria, sitting in Benin City, Edo State capital, has declared that the June 8, 2022 directive of the state government suspending trade unions' activities in tertiary institutions in the state as unconstitutional, illegal, null and void. Recall that the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Ambrose Ali University chapter, had approached the NICN through its lawyer Kingsley Bamboge in a suit to challenge the directive of Governor Godwin Obaseki suspending all unions in the state's tertiary institutions. The suit said the ASU chairman, AAU chapter, Dr. Cyril Nogbesele, and Assistant Secretary, Dr. William Odion, as claimants, while Obaseki, the state attorney general, and the Edo State government were the defendants. The ASU chapter also wanted the court to declare that the order directive of the defendant for the suspension of the trade union activities at Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, as unconstitutional, illegal, null and void, and same is ultra-vires the powers of the defendants. A declaration that the defendants have no power whatsoever to interfere or intermeddle with the claimant's exercise of their rights as members of a registered trade union, academic staff union of universities, to engage in trade union activities at Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma. Several other things were sought, which the court granted, by the way. Delivering judgment, Justice A.A. Adewa ruled that the state government was wrong to have suspended trade union activities in the AAU and other tertiary institutions in the state. And seriously, really, I wonder why the state government, the Edo state government led by the governor, Gordon Obaseki, would have engaged, would have even ventured into this in the first place. It was doomed to fail from inception, which raises questions really as to, the roles of attorneys general throughout the country. They're supposed to be, first and foremost, advisors to the executive as far as legal matters are concerned. How did anybody in the Edo state government think that this was going to stand the test of time or stand the test of the law, for that matter? It was literally impossible. This was always going to be the outcome, but that's happened. However, this particular case is not really the focus of conversation. However, it does raise questions about the activities of labor unions in the country for some time, and they've been in the limelight lately. They have for some time right now. Labor has been in the limelight, and the question I'd like to ask is: are labor unions, are trade unions, how relevant are they in Nigeria today? How relevant are they in Nigeria today? I mean, there have been questions asked about the activities of labor unions. There was the incident in, was it Imo State? Labor in Imo State has an issue with the state government, and then they shut down airpeace activities at the Lagos airport and other airports as well, supposedly. And some of the other actions of labor. And by the way, labor has, I need to say this, labor has played very, very crucial, very, very important roles in the country over the years. And one cannot underestimate the important roles, the crucial contributions that labor has made to every facet of our development as a country. I remember years ago when I held certain, might I say, skewed perceptions about ASU, and it was the first time I was going to have an interaction with Dr. Austin Sado, former chairman ASU at University of Harcourt. He reached out to me personally. I remember he took me in his car. We went on a tour of University of Port Harcourt campus, and he showed me the things that labor and industrial actions by ASU brought about. The TED Fund, which was the brainchild of ASU as a result of industrial actions. If not for the TED Fund and the infrastructure put up by TED Fund, I was wondering what even University of Port Harcourt right now would look like. Maybe a glorified secondary school. Some might even argue it already looks like that anyways, but that's a different matter entirely. So labor, even in our fight for democracy over the years, has played crucial, very important roles. But now, and however, the conversation is not in an attempt to dispute whether labor is relevant, because labor is relevant, or what the potentials of labor are, because labor does have enormous potentials. But labor now, an assessment of labor and trade unionism in Nigeria now, how relevant is labor in Nigeria now to the scheme of things? We'll look at that in the 4 o'clock hour. Pardon me, in the 5 o'clock hour, I meant to say, after the updates. Headlines at 5:30. The major news comes up top of the hour at 6 p.m. and open season after that. A review of all the matters discussed on the show today till about 7 o'clock when we wrap it up on today's edition of Hard Facts. And that's what to expect. You can join in via the platforms I listed just a while ago. But we keep the ball rolling out with today's side comments. Remember, there are random stories I came across earlier on today, and random thoughts of mine on these stories. Police say 3 suspected cultists were killed in a supremacy battle between 2 rival cult groups in the Ahoda axis of the East-West Road on Saturday night. Spokesperson of the Rivers State Police Command, Grace Ringekoko, said 35-year-old, well, some names were mentioned, notorious criminals terrorizing the Ahoda axis of the East-West Road and its environs. Koko said efforts are on to arrest other members of the gang. Earlier, a source in the community said the two rival cult groups engaged in a gun battle, which led to the deaths of the 3 gang members. A source said the Ahoda East Police Division, led by the DPO, later arrived on the scene and chased the criminals away, putting an end to the shooting that had caused panic in the area. And this is interesting. The phrasing, they chased the criminals away. It sounds like they were maybe, I don't know, maybe throwing a party and then the music was loud and then they came to chase them away, or they were loitering, and the DPO came to chase them away. And I have a commercial break coming up now. I'll be back in a moment with more style comments. So please stay with us, and more on this as well, by the way.
We take off with the biggest conversations with an exchange of opinions and ideas on the Morning Crossfire.
Let's talk. 26 past 3 p.m. And still on with today's side comments. Before the break, something about the police saying 3 suspected cultists were killed in a supremacy battle somewhere in Ahoda, and then the Ahoda East Police Division, led by the DPO, later arrived to scene and chased the criminals away, putting an end to the shooting that had caused panic in the area. I don't know. I'm not even sure I understand what this means really. So they came and then they chased the criminals away. I'm surprised that the story didn't end with the police have stationed a truck or a vehicle there, and peace has been maintained in the area, and law-abiding citizens can feel free to go about their law-abiding activities, which is usually how such things usually end. That's how we coin them, But it's quite remarkable. And what you hear in other crimes as things like this, when things like this happen, you will hear that the police are on the trail of these persons, and not just a statement, a carefully or well-worded statement. The police will actually be on their trail. Whole communities, streets, localities are going to be shut down. You're going to hear announcements via every means possible asking residents to ensure they stay indoors. And then eventually, after about a day or two, you are going to hear that maybe there was some kind of another exchange of gunfire between the police and the criminals, and either one person shot or two persons shot, one person or two persons apprehended. And then you will hear that they are proceeding to trial. That's what you hear. That's what you hear. However, what we have heard is that the DPO arrived there and they chased the criminals away. They chased them away. As if they were there just with loud music, and then some people complained that some people are playing loud music here, disturbing us. Then the police now came to chase them away. Police came to chase them away. And I've said it repeatedly, and I'll continue to say it. We have one of the biggest challenges we have in River State, especially with security in River State, are these criminal elements that have been tagged cultists. And until something decisive is done to deal with them, the situation is going to fester. It's going to get worse, and there's going to be an explosion. Or explosion, depends. I don't know. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Because everything we've done so far is rub these people on their heads and pamper them. Criminals in the name of cultists will devastate whole communities. Sack whole communities, bringing pain, bringing suffering, bringing bloodshed, murder, destruction of lives and property. And then somebody will say that we are speak to them, we are talk to them, we are talk to the youths to shit their which youths, people who ought to be rounded up, arrested, tried and sent to jail for a very long time. You say we have talked to the rampaging youths, we have talked to the rampaging and they are shit their salt. Now all the people should come back. They should come back and continue their peaceful activities. We gave them amnesty many times. And I remember one time some community leader was saying that they are shocked that because these people renounced their cultism, they promised that they will not do cultism again. So they are shocked. You're shocked that a criminal is acting in a criminal way, that a murderer is killing people. That's what's shocking you. All right. Once again, if we don't do something about this, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse, and nobody's going to be shielded. Not traditional leaders, not community, not the people that go to beg them to shit their swords. Not them, not even security operatives, not honorables, not excellencies. Nobody's going to be shielded when the inevitable explosion will come, if we don't deal with it now, which I hope we do. I'll tell you what has caught my attention. River State Governor Nyesom Wike says the introduction of the BVAS machine by INEC in the 2023 general election helped to address electoral malpractice and violence. Governor Wike said this while swearing in members of the River State Independent Electoral Commission (RISEC) and the River State Primary Healthcare Management Board at Government House in Port Harcourt on Sunday. A quick listen to what the River State Governor had to say on BVAS. The game changer, I suppose.
If for nothing, Nigerians should commend INEC that they reduce the level of violence, the level of death. Because without this BVAS, before we were fighting with security agencies, they were carrying electoral materials, hijack electoral officials. But now, it's difficult. Well, whom are you carrying? If you carry the BVAS, what do you do? You cannot do anything. So, no matter the inadequacy, you will see that there's an improvement as far as reducing violence, which is key. Because our elections process has always been killing, hijacking of materials, using security. But with the introduction of the BVAS, no matter the shortcoming that it did not work optimally as we expected.
Oh, Your Excellency, you're absolutely correct. And the BVAS was a stroke of genius. Its introduction raised hopes of Nigerians across the country as to what they believed was going to be the new face of elections in Nigeria. So Your Excellency is right. It was supposed to be, as I said earlier, the game changer. But in actual fact, that was in theory, Your Excellency. But in practice, was that the case? Was that really the case? Because while introduction of technology in itself is fantastic and brilliant, as happened with BVAS, did honorables and excellencies in River State, did honorables and excellencies in Nigeria allow BVAS to work? Did they? Let's take a listen to the governor's comments again.
If for nothing, Nigerians should commend INEC that they reduce the level of violence, the level of death. Because without these beavers. Before, we were fighting with security agencies. They were carrying electoral materials.
Your Excellency, that happened in these elections. They were widespread. Not occasional instances or minor. No, there were widespread reports of security agencies, the police especially, going to polling units and snatching election materials, and snatching electoral officials, and snatching beavers and driving them away. Widespread in River State here and beyond River State.
Hijack electoral officials.
They did that, Your Excellency. Once again, widespread reports of hijacking electoral officials by security operatives and honorables as well.
But now, it's difficult.
Not exactly, Your Excellency. It's not that difficult, really, because once again, there were widespread reports. If it was difficult, it wouldn't have been widespread. So it wasn't that difficult, Your Excellency. It wasn't that difficult, really.
If you carry the beavers, what do you do? You cannot.
Good question, Your Excellency, but they carried it nonetheless. Nobody knows what they did with them, but they carried nonetheless.
Anything did. So, no matter the inadequacies, you will see that there's an improvement.
Well, the jury is still out on that, Your Excellency, whether there really was an improvement,
As far as reducing violence, which is
not necessarily as well, because people also died in these elections. We had violence, even before the elections. Opposition parties in Rivers State, for example, had a difficult time conducting campaigns because when they go out for the campaigns, they met with violence. Even on election day as well, there was violence. And have we forgotten, Your Excellency, that I think 3 or 4 people at least died in Rivers State as a result of the elections? So there was violence still.
Because our elections process has always been killing, hijacking of material.
Yeah, we did that. We definitely did that. Your Excellency, that's how we do it here. We did that also. We hijack materials and we kill people also. We also did that in these elections. That's how we do it, sir.
Using security, but with the introduction of the beavers, no matter the shortcoming that it did not work optimally as we expected.
Oh well, yeah, well, that's done. I'd say, was there anything else in particular that caught my attention? Well, the Election Petitions Tribunal commenced hearing today. Well, there was pre-hearing before now, but hearing, I believe, on the substantive matters commenced today. And fireworks, I believe, already been unleashed, I imagine. It will be an interesting couple of days and weeks, maybe even months to come as well, as Nigerians await what the tribunals will determine in the time ahead. So I think that will be it for today's. Side comments. Noble goes, good evening, Dial. Police probably now is chasing robbers away and want them to stop disturbing the peace we enjoyed in River State. That's from Rasam Noble. Dial, did I hear you say criminals were chased away by the police? NYPD apprehend criminals, alas in my country, NPF chases them away. That's from Gift. Dr. Linda goes, good evening. Beavers added only sorrows to the elections as it ended up as a deceit. And that's long. Okay, that all right. Well, I have to. I pray for you, Dio, and your family. God Almighty should guide you and your family in Jesus' name. I'm laughing. All right, good to hear from you as well. Well, that's a wrap for now. I go for a break, and today's round comes up after that. Just stick around. Hard Fast continues shortly.
Politics,
to rant for just a bit. There's something in mind. I've expressed some thoughts in it, and I'd like to get your take all the time. Emergencies. Emergency. Oh, emergency. No one likes that. Emergencies. Don't like emergencies, you know. We don't like to think about them. And consider that we're a very religious person. We believe our emergencies are. Well, quite frankly, I don't know whose portion it is. But our approach is not my portion. Whether it's your portion or not, they do happen. The gravity of the emergency does differ. Depends on the circumstance, depends on the incident, and depends on the person to whom the emergency is happening to. But emergencies do happen, of whatever nature. It could be an accident, it could be a domestic accident, it could be an auto road accident, it could be a fire, it could be anything. But because emergencies do happen, and because no matter how well we plan for emergencies, and by the way, you should plan for an emergency, you should make contingency plans for emergencies. It's not my portion, it's not a good enough plan to handle emergencies, all right? But no matter how well you plan for emergencies, one can never quite completely, absolutely prevent the possibility of the occurrence of an emergency, because they do happen nonetheless. And does that mean that preventive measures should not be put in place, or proactive steps should not be taken to prevent emergencies? Of course not. You have to do that, because doing this will reduce the possibility of an emergency, and reducing the probability of it happening is a very good thing. In fact, the lower the probability is, the less likely you are to have an emergency. So it's good to plan ahead. It's good to have a fire extinguisher, for example, in case you have a fire. It's good to put measures in place. It's good to put those covers on the electrical sockets. Those things, you know, when you say, you know, make it foolproof your house, especially if you have children. Because if you cover the sockets, then you are very likely not going to have a case of electrocution of a child. Chances of having that is higher if sockets are not properly covered. So you see, it's good to plan for them. But once again, even when you plan when you take proactive steps to prevent emergencies, does that mean they will never happen? No, they will happen. Sometimes the plan is to mitigate the emergency when it does happen. That's why, for example, you have fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers do not prevent fires. Fire extinguishers are there in the event of a fire. That means that whilst we pray that there should be no fire, and we probably put steps in place to ensure there is no fire, sometimes there just will be a fire. But how do you deal with the fire? Hence, fire extinguishers. Or, on a broader scale, hence the fire service. Because fires do happen. Of whatever kind. Whether it's the spiritual kind, and some people pray for fire to come down. But of whatever kind, fires do happen. And in some cases, they are bad fires that destroy lives and destroy property. Now, while private establishments, especially the really big establishments, have the resources and capacity to set up their own formidable, effective and efficient fire service or fire department, and that's fantastic, government has the primary responsibility of setting up and equipping a functional, effective and efficient fire department, because emergencies happen. And by the way, on the national scale, we have a national emergency management agency, even though that law indicates that the states ought to have their own versions of that. One wonders why the Rivers State government, or successive administrations in Rivers State, including the current administration, has not thought it wise to set up a Rivers State emergency management agency. I guess we're in Rivers. So setting up a functional fire department to handle fires and other emergencies, by the way, you know, slight digression. Let me shock you right now. Do you know that in some climes, The fire department responds to emergencies beyond just fires. A person could be stuck somewhere on a building or even in their own building. They call the fire department to get them out. A cat is stuck on a tree. They call the fire department to get the cat down. Yeah, I know, you're shocked. You never experience it. I know, but it happens. So a fire department responds to emergencies, not just the fires, but other kinds of emergencies as well. The importance of a fire department, a fully functional, equipped one, cannot be overestimated. Because fires happen. Considering how crucial and important it is to have a fire department, it is then of great concern that Rivers State does not have a functional state fire service. No, it does not. And this is the item from our news bulletin earlier today that's inspired today's rant. Properties worth millions of naira were lost in a fire last night at number 7 Market Lane, Rumuomasi, exits upon Harcourt. Now, speaking of the incident, one of the victims, Angela Ishiet, said the fire started from their tenant's bedroom and escalated to other apartments through the roof. She said they are yet to ascertain the exact cause of the fire, as a tenant from whose bedroom the fire started is currently at the hospital. I hope that person recovers, by the way. Sadly. But fires do happen. Now, Ms. Eshet also narrated how she drove to the state fire service. Probably wouldn't be better to call. I don't know. Maybe network. Maybe she couldn't reach them. Maybe she doesn't have their number. Maybe they don't even have a functional phone number. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, she drove there, and she got there. And what was the response she got from the Rivers State Fire Service? She was advised to go to the Federal Fire Secretariat, and the State Fire Service cannot assist. Now, this lady has called on the Rivers State government to ensure the State Fire Service is functional. It's quite alarming that a citizen of Nigeria or a resident of Rivers State has to advise the state government that it should have a functional fire service. It is one of the most basics of government, of governance. Quite frankly, I should not come in the studio, nobody should come in the studio or anything to remind the government that it needs to have a functional fire department. One that actually has fire trucks, that has water and chemicals and other emergencies. And very well trained personnel as well, I must add that. But as with other things, that's how we do it here. It does become imperative to remind the Rivers State government that Rivers State does not have a functional fire station, at least one station in every local government area. Some local government areas, not all, will require more than one fire station. That's important, and the Rivers State government must pay attention to this. Because once again, whilst it might be nobody's in and others' portions in, fires, emergencies do happen. They are inevitable, and we must deal with them. One way with them, deal with them, then that they do occur, which they will. Especially when the fires function service. Yes, we have federal fire service, we have the fire service, some more than us, and they do help it. They do help, they do a great job when they can. But it takes the away from the need to have a functional Rivers State Fire Department. And I hope the state government will take it serious. I don't know what will cost us anything close to the cost of one driver to have a fully functional fire service in Rivers. On that note, the round is an open board. Let's get your take on mine. Call 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003 or 0007 on the numbers to call with facebook.com/Nigeria InfoPH, or also on Twitter and YouTube at Nigeria InfoPH. Do keep it brief and straight to the point, and want to call his answer, do please turn off your radio set. It's expedient you do so, else we cannot have a conversation. Let's start with this. Someone says paramedics are even under the fire department in the US. No, I'm not sure they're under the fire department actually. They do work hand in hand, yes, but I'm not sure paramedics. I don't think paramedics are under the fire department, but it's important to note that as well, because paramedics also play a crucial role in emergency response, because in many cases, they provide initial care for people who are harmed by the emergency before they get into the hospital, and in many cases that makes all the difference between whether a person is able to stay alive or not. So there's a wide range. There's a whole lot involved in emergency management or emergency response, which we must play a lot of emphasis on. All right, another commenter. Funny enough, fire service is more important than any flyover. Oh, I mean, they're all important. If we have a fire service, a functional fire service, and there are no access to the that's going to be a problem also. So it's not the case of one being more important than the other. It's a case of it's all important, and government must attend to what matters. Once again, 0817 923 0002 or 3 or 0007. Those are the numbers. Good afternoon. I am Chris in Livingston. Operative flyovers, Southern indeed. Well, once again, flyovers are good, Hello, Hunt Factor. Welcome. Go ahead. Hello? Hello?
Sir?
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Your live, go ahead, please.
A bit for us on the rock.
Go ahead, please.
People should less think about people that go and rob.
Just a moment. I'm taking response to my rant, not the side comment I made earlier on. To my rant only. Good afternoon, Di. I can see that you have been sponsored by the opposition to spoil and demarket the good image of His Excellency and Rivers people. You don't see that His Excellency is busy commissioning projects. That's some heart. That's a good thing, Okay, so if it's about commissioning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Daya Shaki.
Hello, you're welcome. Go ahead.
On this very critical issue on the fire service, sometimes when you bring up these issues, I get to think aloud, echo in my head. It doesn't take anything to get these things start working. Most especially in a society like ours, where we have things that generate funds for the state. Don't ask the people to raise funds to take care of the natural resources to do this. Now, listen, I was able to ask a question. If I could, I would get fire vehicles in this part of the country. It's easy to drill our water. Then I drill water. I get the septic tanks, get the vehicles ready. My whole market has been kind of fire. So now one way there, get those people there, and then everybody that comes to shop, 10 naira for safety. Maximum can do maybe 1,000 naira or 500. While everybody that is 10 naira will just be charged for safety charge for whatever you're buying in the market. And at the end of the day, the vehicle will be there. It will be very okay to take care of emergencies. If me as an individual is even thinking what at the government, my brother, we need to take aside government right now to solve most of our problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, true that. That's some proactive, forward-looking thinking, no doubt. However, government must take the lead. There are things that government cannot renege on its role or responsibility. I dare say. I've got a commercial break now. I'll return shortly. Do please stay. Back to Nigeria Info here in Port Harcourt. I'm Dyer. I got about 4 minutes to go before 4 p.m. Still getting responses to my rant, which was a reminder to the Rivers State government that we need to have a proactive, fully functional and effective emergency response plan, and in place in Rivers State. And integral to this plan is a full functional fire department as well. From all indications, it appears that why that's the case. Call 077 0002 or 0003 or 000. My Facebook.com/Nigerian page. We're also on Twitter and YouTube as well at Nigeria Info PH. Someone says, with this development, are we sure the law school fire engine is working? Well, I hope it is. Collins from DB1.
Thank you.
Hi, please.
Important of what you are saying. If you want women have gone that place where is burning in this our area, they will tell you they don't have water. They will tell you they don't have water. But once you get it's not like structures on the ground. Those people are not structures. So you need we need more structures than fire.
Yeah, but even if it's about that, we can commission something with the fire department.
There's who is going to come and commission now. When other people commission it flying. If you're a governor, you have to commission.
Yeah, so we can add it to the if we think it's a small project, then we can add it to a big. We can add it to a bigger project and commission both.
Like what now?
Another flyover, whatever. I don't know.
People will come and dance. People will come and dance to flyover.
That's what I'm saying. So add it to a bigger project then.
We are ramping up our time, and they don't do those projects for now. We need something that will be structure on the ground. The business and do local government election next year or this year ending. So those things are not our problem.
All right, Collins. I wonder why we don't get to hear groundbreaking ceremonies or flag off for the fire service department when there must be a fire outbreak till Jesus comes. Very inevitable, Nelson Hansen. My condolences victims that your rant is on the state government need to give the fire departments the needed attention because it's a real thief. We need to stop fire from stealing from us. Good evening, Dad. The primary function of government is to protect lives and property, and we don't have one to protect lives and property here in Rivers State. But our governor is going about in his chapter. He's done very well. That's from Noble. I got a shot last night. Oh goodness, I'm pressed for time. I can't read this. Anyways, that's wrap for now. Businesses comes at 4 p.m. Discussions continue after that. Deal with us.
With information comes power.
We give you more power with information.